Welcome to Athens, where the city's walls have been treated like a canvas in recent years. Since 2009, Greece has been on a political and financial roller coaster with insurmountable debts and a migrant crisis washing up on its shores. We're here to find out how artists are responding to those ups and downs. It's the cradle of Western arts and civilization, but the gods have been unkind to Greece in recent years as the country's buckled under pressure. Cash injections from the EU and the IMF were secured in exchange for crippling austerity measures, sparking waves of protest and the rise of the extreme right. Last year, Greeks said no to the strict European bailout conditions in a referendum, but for most people, little seems to have changed. Slogans, satirical cartoons and even decorative frescoes have flourished in the streets of the capital, especially in areas like Exarchia, a neighbourhood with anarchist roots. Local artist Spike69 shows me around.
So when the crisis arrived, graffiti was already here, and then we had street art coming in the scene, let's say. And Exarchia was the perfect place to do that. They just added some street art and political messages, which always were here. And you have the little message like anti-system, anti-Nazi, because fascism is very present lately. With the crisis, they took the opportunity to get power. And you can read also chaos, riot.
And can you tell me about what's going on here?
Yeah, here is nice because they use the structure of the building to leave a message for the fascists, like fascists, go back to your holes, fascistes pisos στις τρύπες σας, and you have an arrow that guides you or guides them to the holes.
And do you think the messages that we see on the walls here are representative of the feeling in Greece right now?
You will see a lot of sad faces, a lot of homeless people in the real world, but also drawn on the wall, because some people don't want to accept it.
And what has the response been from the people who live in this area when they see this kind of art?
So it's funny because people that you don't expect, they really love it. And the people that you would say, come on, you're young, sometimes they say, this is ugly, and they cannot agree with it. But it's just freedom of speech on the walls.
Σίγουρα είναι μέρος της κουλτούρας εδώ, στην περιοχή. Έχει πολύ πολιτικό σχόλιο, με πολύ χιούμορ.
Παλιά, έτσι νεοκλασικά, τα περισσότερα δυστυχώς είναι παρατημένα, αλλά όλο αυτό το πράγμα πάνω τους δεν τα βοηθάει.
Παρ' όλα αυτά το δέχομαι, δεν το βρίσκω βανδαλισμό, το βρίσκω τέχνη.
Just a few streets away, we catch up with writer, producer and director Thanos Anastopoulos. He grew up here, where he was a regular at the local cinemas. Many have since shut down, but not the Alkionis. This independent cinema has survived since your childhood. How do they do that? How difficult is it?
This one, it was closed for many years, transformed into theater, then closed, shut down again, reopened 2-3 years ago, proposing again art house, cinema. They also make other things, like today they have a kind of dance exams, a show of dance school or music concerts. It's really difficult to survive as an independent cinema today, yeah.
Greek filmmaking has prevailed too, with a new wave attracting international attention. Yorgos Lanthimos gained plaudits for last year's The Lobster, and Panos Koutras has been tipped as a rising star after Xenia in 2014. Today, Thanos' films are screened at festivals in Cannes, Berlin and New York, with 2008's Correction selected to represent Greece at the Oscars. His next film, The Daughter, used the violent anti-austerity protests as a backdrop for this thriller, in which a girl takes an innocent child hostage in revenge for the financial woes of her own father. Thanos, thanks for bringing us here. This is one of the most beautiful views in Athens, but your films show a very different side of the city.
We are in the Parthenon's point of view. While I try to film down in let's say, in the human point of view, sometimes even lower in the homeless's point of view.
Now, your 2012 film, The Daughter, has a protagonist, Myrto, who's very young. She's a teenager and she's not responsible for the chaotic circumstances she finds herself in. What were you trying to say about the younger generation there?
In the case of Myrto in the film, she's a teenager, so you have this coming-of-age story, which is parallelly her coming of age and, in a certain sense, the coming of age of a country. For us, it's very interesting because after a certain age, you have also a kind of responsibility. But if you're still, a minor, you still have the time to reflect and think. And once this crisis will be over, because it will be over sooner or later, these girls and boys are the ones who are going to restructure our society.
Πόσο θα μείνουμε ακόμα εδώ?
Θα δείξει, δεν ξέρω.
Θέλω να μου φέρεις φαγητό.
Τι άλλο?
Το γάτο μου.
Ο γάτος όλη φροντίδα.
And the background to that film, The Daughter, is the financial and political turbulence of Greece at the time. Has that been a source of inspiration for you and other artists?
I guess so. I mean, for me it was definitely, but it's also the fact that it's a reality. I mean, if you live in this country, in this city, especially in 2010, 11 and 12, when the film was in preparation, you were feeling these things. So it's not that I'm trying to put it in the film. It's part of the everyday reality.
And as a filmmaker in this business, how do you manage to get by and finance your filmmaking?
Well, it's very difficult because the public funds have diminished. Some films are really low budget, made with the help of friends, fellow filmmakers, actors, technicians, crews. Everyone is helping to make these films. We started to make co-productions with other European countries in order to continue to create. It was important for me to say if I'm going to continue to work as a filmmaker against all odds. It has definitely nothing to do with the idea of success or of commercial revenues, but it has to do with your responsibility as a citizen, as a human being, as an artist, to narrate the world you're living, the society you're living, the people you meet, the stories you encounter. And to me, it was a choice, let's say, filming to me is a political choice of resistance. Film means I breathe.
Scraping together the necessary funds is an ongoing challenge in every domain. At the Skrow Theater, the show must go on, and for that to happen, everyone has to pitch in.
I'm an actor and a cleaning lady. In this theater, we're a collective, we're colleagues, and we do many things. We have three or four jobs. I mean, I'm a crew, I'm an actor, I'm a director, I'm a writer. I cut tickets sometimes. It depends on what the theater needs every day.
Είμαστε υπέρ της άποψης να στηρίζονται, ειδικά σήμερα, στις μέρες της κρίσης, τέτοιες προσπάθειες.
Πολύ καλό είναι να βοηθούμε τα νέα παιδιά, τους νέους ανθρώπους, γιατί ό,τι κάνουν, το κάνουν μόνοι τους.
Greek theatre may be world-renowned, but performing arts have been hit hard by budget cuts. The minimum wage for actors has gone down, and ticket sales have dipped too. For those who've pinned their hopes on a career on the stage, it's all the more important to keep going and get round these obstacles.
Νομίζω ότι αν δεν είμαστε αλληλέγγυοι, όχι εθελοντές, αλληλέγγυοι, γιατί είναι μεγάλη διαφορά, δεν θα προχωρήσουμε ούτε ομαδικά, ούτε ατομικά ο καθένας μας μέσα σε αυτό το χώρο. Είτε του θεάτρου, είτε της κοινωνίας μας αυτής.
Έχεις δικαίωμα να είσαι ευτυχισμένη σε ένα βιβλίο, όχι, έλεγε έχεις κάθε δικαίωμα να διεκδικήσεις την ευτυχία σου, όχι, έλεγε έχεις κάθε δικαίωμα να κυνηγήσεις την ευτυχία σου. Ναι!
With one of the smallest culture budgets in the EU, the state has taken a back seat in recent years, and private institutions have stepped in with generous grants. 6 years ago, the Onassis Cultural Centre opened in Athens. Shortly afterwards, the Stavros Niarchos Foundation called on architect Renzo Piano to design their building overlooking the sea. When it opens to the public, it will be home to Greece's National Library and the Opera. Despite public funding being slashed by over 30%, museums and galleries remain a major draw here in Athens. The Museum of Cycladic Art attracts international names like Ai Weiwei, whose work is currently on display here. He visited the Greek island of Lesbos in January, highlighting the plight of the refugees who've been arriving there in their thousands. An installation of life rings recalls those who've perished in the Mediterranean, and a sculpture of tear gas canisters a nod to the violence at the Idomeni refugee camp. The Chinese artist recreated the tragic image of Aylan Kurdi, who drowned off the coast of Turkey in 2015, a powerful reminder of the severity of the situation at the edge of the European Union.
This is part of Europe, and I see very little support, from my impression, from the European Union and also from the worldwide.
Susan Sarandon also visited the island working with NGOs at this humanitarian frontline. Actor Mandy Patinkin was another among the volunteers, visibly moved by the daily arrival of hundreds of refugees.
Squeezing my finger. It's good. I just don't get it. I don't get how people let this happen to people.
Local artists have also been moved by the scale of this crisis. Singer Angélique Ionatos left Greece as a teenager during the military dictatorship. She built her musical career in Belgium and France, but has returned to a country that she says has been disfigured and humiliated. Angélique's channeled her fury about the situation into her latest album. The record's dedicated to the migrants seeking refuge on Greece's shores, something she's witnessed from her house in Lesbos. Angélique, you spend a lot of time on the island of Lesbos. Can you explain how things are happening there?
Στη Λέσβο τα πράγματα είναι δραματικά.
Things are dramatic in Lesbos.
Την περασμένη χρονιά
Last year when I went, there were between 800 and 1,000 refugees arriving every day. There were children, old men, pregnant women walking under the sun. We were trying to fill the cars with water, soap, toothpaste to give to the refugees. The people of Lesbos know what it means to live in exile, because many of them come from what was Asia Minor themselves. So they're very welcoming of the refugees.
Your most recent album, Reste la Lumière, you sing in your native language, Greek, even though you've spent many, many years speaking French in France and Belgium. Why this choice of Greek?
I can only make my music in Greek. I adore my language. I think it's one of the most beautiful languages in the world. I've been singing for the past 45 years, and only 2 of my albums are in French. Everything else is in Greek.
And given the recent crises, financial and refugees, what do you think of the response of the Greek government and of Europe in general?
When Tsipras was elected, I was very hopeful that things would change in Greece because he was a young politician. But I was really disappointed because I realized that the situation was so bad that even he was unable to do more than simply serve as the stepping stone for something else.
And how do you see the future of arts and culture in Greece given these difficult circumstances?
I'll give you an example. What we know about ancient Greece, we know it from the arts. So I hope the artists of today who prevail will not be those who sing about irrelevant things, but those who bear witness to the people's living conditions in their country and protest against it. I believe that an artist's job is to act as the witness of his or her era.
Σε δημόσια πλατιά το στενόσο κακό κι είναι στη σκοτεινιά και στην ερήμωση όπου ριζωνεί και βοδιάζει θύμηση.